Episode 277 of Stogie Geeks Volume 2. I have live via Skype a gentleman who should need no introduction, Christian Eiroa from C.L.E. Cigars. He's also co-founder of Asylum Cigar Company as well. He joins us from sunny Cocoa Beach. And
I Dream a Genie.
And he tells me just down the street from where I Dream a Genie has been around. That just gave your age.
Barbara, what was her name? Barbara Eden.
Barbara Eden. That was a great series for sure. You know,
wasn't it?
Yes. Now, Christian, I'm going to give you a little background.
Hold on, back up. Why
sorry.
Volume 2, man? What's with Volume 2?
No. Volume 2. Volume 1 was at 1 o'clock where I did my Stogies of the Week. So I just talked about what I've been smoking, and of course I have included, just so you know, right? Because you asked the question.
All right.
I've included a couple of C.L.E. sticks, right? And so I just talked about what we've been smoking, what I've been smoking, and we give it a rating here on the Stogie Geeks thing. Right. So we kind of do the interviews usually at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And sometimes if we can't fit that into whoever we're interviewing schedule, either because of time shifts or travel or whichever, because obviously owning a cigar company, you're always on the road, we either do the Sticks of the Week first or last, so I can either do the 1 or the 2 p.m. and then try to toggle it that way.
Listen, I was just making sure it wasn't a back-to-school situation.
No.
One question, 7 sub-parts, 15 sub-questions.
Yeah, I'm actually very excited to interview you because if we go back to 2014, 2015, I had the opportunity, how I got roped into Stogie Geeks here as a co-host is I used to have a cigar show called Cigar Club Radio on terrestrial AM radio here on Friday afternoons in the Providence Metro. And I actually interviewed Tom Lazuka from your organization. And, you know, I can't believe how big he is. Like I have a picture of me next to him, and you know, I'm 240 and he is just gigantic. Great guy, great interview. We obviously talked about the world of Asylum. Back then in 2015, Asylum, you know, you guys were definitely rocking and rolling with that.
Crazy, man.
And then
that thing took off like yeah, go ahead.
Right. And then in 2016 I tried to get a interview with you unsuccessfully. And then since then, I got hired January 2nd of 2017 to be the co-host of Stogie Geeks here with Paul. And so this is my first time actually having a chance to even speak to you.
Listen, I'm an important guy, man. I'm a good AM radio. Only Howard Stern and FM stations.
That's it. So I was out of luck, you know. I was out of luck. So I just wanted to give you some background. How is Tom doing?
Listen, Tom's doing well. I just spoke when we talk fairly often, and he's always on some sort of diet, and he does well, man. Listen, Tom's the best. I love the reason I get along with Tom so well. I remember when we were working together. I'm an early riser, and that was back in the Camacho days, and he just hired him for Detroit. Bro, and this kid, man, he couldn't take a phone call before 9 or 9:30. It used to drive me crazy. So I was like, you know, I'm gonna let this guy go. He pisses me off. But every time I would call him pissed off, he was in such a good mood that I couldn't be pissed off at him ever. And he ended up being a monster at work. And toward the end, we did a contest, and we had to launch a cigar. So I had 4 different teams in Camacho. And he ended up developing one cigar, which he cheated me. He picked like the cheapest cigar that we could make. It was called the Outdoorsman. And he went ahead and he won the contest because he developed a cigar with a team. It was short filler. We didn't make any money on it. But he always had that kind of personality, very sure of himself. And Tom could do just about anything. Everybody loves to hang out with him. So he's in good shape. And I miss not being around him all the time.
Yeah. So he's anything. Now that we're on the subject of Asylum, and obviously you're a co-founder of that company. What do they got going on?
Bro, Asylum, you know, it's amazing what's going on with Asylum. Asylum was a hit from the beginning to the point that we ended up, now it feels like the brand's been around for 15 or 20 years. And it all started with Tom with this idea that I thought was pretty dumb. And I'm glad I not trusted him, but like, screw you, Tom, I'm going to do it just so you can eat your words kind of a thing. And it ended up working.
Yeah.
And what really helped us out the best, and there's a book out there for some of you guys that like to study branding. It's called The 22 Immutable Laws of Branding.
Okay.
And what this book teaches you is that copycat brands end up making the original brand a lot stronger. And I remember when people started coming out with that 70 by 7 size, although we weren't the first, I'll admit we weren't the first, but we were really the first to really get it out there. And we used it as a loss leader. We were making much of a profit in that product. And when other companies, especially the bigger companies, started copying our product, I remember Tom getting so furious, and I was dancing on the ceiling. He goes, Christian, don't you understand they copied us? I go, Tom, don't you understand that a size that should have been a gimmick, all of a sudden, I just became a real size?
Oh, yeah.
Now that brand is here forever. Now, we had about 16 or 17, sorry guys,
no,
the wind is pretty strong here.
Yeah, yeah.
We had about 16 or 17 different brands competing against us. And we ended up to the point where we ended up being the only one out there with a 70 by 7. And now we ended up with a very dominating market share. And the brand just keeps growing. We did the Medulla Oblongata last year, and then this year we extended with the Medulla Oblongata Maduro. And that cigar has been selling at a very dramatic pace to the point that as a company, we're not opening up any new accounts, and we're not opening up any new Medulla Oblongata customers either. We're going to service the customers that we do have now. And the brand just keeps expanding. We also have the Insidious, which is the Connecticut milder brand. That cigar does extremely well as well. Just in general, the brand has been very well accepted. A big part of it is Tom Lazuka, of course. People like him. He travels a lot and spends a lot of time with customers. I think the quality has a lot to do with it also. We're very strict with our quality, very consistent. We draw test every cigar. We follow Bayer's recommendations. And even the factory in Nicaragua that we are working with called Naxa, you know, these people have opened up their doors to us, and they allowed us to bring in our people, and they've really helped us make their production out of that factory much better. And that's where you get the kind of consistency and the kind of controls that we've always had, which was a very interesting shift, which is a good shift. And I do have to thank them. This is a factory that was used to dealing in volume, and they still do. They're huge. But they were nice enough to trust us and trust our input and allow us to really give our input and help us out. And I think that, you know, there's no one formula that makes it successful. I think there are 7 or 8 different items that make that product successful.
Right. And then I also think that, you know, when you look at a branding and positioning standpoint, right, imitation is the best form of flattery, right? So when the classic facings that have been around before you guys, and then you come into market and they're starting to make their sizes in the 60, 70 ring gauge, and they're like, well, obviously Asylum's onto something. But, you know, like publicly, you guys, in my opinion, at least here in the Northeast, Asylum did a fascinating job at bringing the bigger ring gauge sizes to market, and they did that very well, you know, for sure, you know, definitely.
Well, in your market, we had Lauren Ferraro also. Lauren was a superstar, man.
Yes.
That kid worked so hard, man. You know, her dad's a great guy, Mike.
Yep.
And she was a real hard worker. It was tough to see her go. She was starting a family, was getting married, and
yeah, I was going to say
the road is hard.
Yeah, the industry lost a very hard worker. At the time, if she would have stuck around, it would have been second generation. You know, because her father did a great job at putting sticks here in the Northeast for many years.
Yeah, it's always been the problem with our industry too. The superstars are real hard to keep.
Sure.
In general, because our industry is a small industry. I have no doubt that she'll end up being a farmer rep or some large industry type person, because she's smart, but she's disciplined, extremely disciplined. And that's what really made her that successful. She would follow her route. She'd go visit the customers, could pitch the product very well. And she worked, man. Period. That's it.
That's
There's no secret.
basically all you have to do. So now, fast forward, here we are speaking about you and C.L.E. Thank you for giving us the synopsis on Asylum and Tom. Like I said, it was a great interview. It was a great experience. What's going on in your world now? Because you gotta, I mean, we have a lot of subjects to kind of talk about today, right? Obviously,
Yeah, man.
you know, we got to talk about the FDA, how that has played a proponent, and you know the kind of wishy-washy uncertainty of the FDA, how that's going to affect you potentially, what you're kind of doing to kind of either circumvent or counteract or prepare for that. And then, obviously, now that's starting to catch in a news cycle is the situation down in Nicaragua, which, I mean, you know, you basically, you know, it's amazing because here, the American smoker, the American consumer, might look at the situation as from a democratic standpoint, right? But what they don't understand is that things are ran differently in that country. And, you know, what's the answer there, right? Like, what is the answer? The cause is that they want 5% to come from the workers, 5% to come from the business, correct? And then from that to kind of fulfill the gap, the budgetary gap, so that that country feels that it can sustain its livelihood for their version of sustainability. Now, whether you agree or not agree with it, with politics, I don't want to turn it into a political discussion, but the factory workers who you obviously visit, they're right smack in the middle.
Listen, man, they do have a tough situation, the workers over there, and I have to be smart the way I answer. Not smart. Listen,
I got you.
I think the whole salary situation might just be the straw that broke the camel's back. This is a country that people are always very nice. They work really well, but it's a company that always has had these political struggles for many, many years. And I was very surprised to see that it happened, because when I go to Nicaragua, the workers seem very happy. And I was surprised that it was, you know, there was something brewing right just under the surface. And that would make the people get so upset that quickly. You know, Nicaraguans also do have, and they have the one challenge that their salaries aren't as high as they are in Dominican and Nicaragua. But it's also a country that it's a lot easier to work in. It's not highly taxed like the other countries as well. So Nicaragua really was and still is a very comfortable country to work in. I'm pretty sure you have a lot of people that have a lot of political savvy, and they'll be able to make that situation work out. But I think, you know, listen, man, people need to vent. People need to tell them, express what's on their mind. That's the good thing about any sort of country that allows their citizens to speak and tell them what's going on. And we definitely hope that it gets resolved for the people's sakes. These are countries that don't have very many opportunities. I would really, really absolutely hate for Nicaragua to go back to where they were, and foreign direct investment to begin to disappear from this country. And all of a sudden now, all the money that started flowing in, because if you go to C.L.E. now, and listen, I'm from Honduras, right? So, you know, I go to C.L.E. and I get very jealous in a good way how C.L.E. could develop so quickly and C.L.E. stayed behind. But C.L.E. people are very industrious. They're always coming up with ideas. You got hotels there, you got restaurants, you got bars. C.L.E. only, I think, has like 1 or 2 hotels and a couple of restaurants. So I think they'll figure it out. They're going to pass the situation. It is going to hurt production. It's hurting exports. It's hurting morale in general. And as foreigners that we are, we just have to respect the law of the land and respect what's going on. And hopefully their citizens themselves can come to a resolution.
How is it affecting your business at the particular moment, and what do you? I know that you have to keep a very watchful eye on the situation for sure.
Oh, listen, for sure, man. We have a business has not been affected as of yet. We've been very good about talking to our workers and explaining to our customer situation. The good thing about a town like C.L.E., although there has been some revolt, it's a city that does not have very much unemployment. So people have stuff to do, man. They can't be on the street. They can't be out of the street making making noise out there or anything, right? So but they have been working. They have been doing a good job, and we also have a presence in Honduras. It's something we've always been cautious about. I remember seeing Nestor Plasencia doing this for many years, and I also saw Padrones do that for many years. I think up to like, and don't quote me on it, but let me say 15 years ago, they still had their factory in Danlí, or maybe 15, 18. So they always kept a foot in a different country.
Mm-hmm.
We did that, and we always did the same thing. It was part of our strategy from the beginning. I wanted to make sure I was protected, because you never know these countries.
Sure.
I did it mostly also because Honduras, we had our same problem back in the elections, November, December, January, that we had to cancel our trips to Honduras and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So these people have gone through this very often. It doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen.
Right. And it's amazing how it doesn't, like you said, there was a situation that you dealt with when they had the elections, right? It doesn't really make our American news cycle for a couple of reasons. I mean, reason number one is 2%, just about 2% of the U.S. population smokes premium cigars, right? So, so it's a very small market. You know, our world is a very small market when you're talking business, right?
I'm sorry, did you say market?
Market, yeah.
All right.
That's my that's the Rhode Island 2% of the market.
There you go, sir.
Right, right. 2% of the market. I almost said it again. Market. Right. 2%. You know, smokes premium cigars. So when you look at it from an industry perspective, it's pretty small business, right? Even though you know we deal with large volume and large numbers of batches of cigars, and there's a distribution component involved, and there's a whole methodology that we're all passionate about for sure. But you know, it doesn't make the actual news cycle. But I think why it's making the news cycle is that the workers are, you know, there's starting to be some bad violence and some unnecessary violence that is there, and so
I agree.
You know,
and it really is sad. I mean, these people they're good people, man. They're hardworking people. You know, that's one of the reasons why. Like when we'll do an event and our customers will ask, well, you know, let's give away a cigar free with that, or every time I see a cigar discounted. Listen, man, it bothers me to the core, because a lot of these people get up so early in the morning. They get up at 4:30 in the morning to do a good job. And for me, discounting a cigar is like discounting their work and what they do for a living. Mm-hmm. These people are good people, man. And I think it'll end up well, and it's going to end up the way it should end. And it's really a shame that the country's going through that. But it's going to happen. Listen, man, it happens in the U.S. It happens in all different countries. You see it happens in France all the time, too.
Right. Now, from your experience with these situations, you think it'll be 90 days, 180 days, or do you think it'll be, you know, dragged out, or, you know?
No, I don't think it gets dragged out at all. Mm-hmm. They're very quick. They're very quick to sit down, negotiate, and people air the differences. If the situation is that the president must leave office, then that's a whole different story. Mm-hmm. And I think everybody involved, the government involved, knows that civil unrest is the word.
Yep.
Civil unrest. I think people know when there's civil unrest, the country's not productive. And at the end of the day, you need money to keep the country rolling. You need your exports, and you can't scare away investment.
Right.
You need to keep functioning.
Right. And now, obviously, the cigar industry plays a huge factor in that part of the territory, for sure. So, you know.
Yeah, certainly. It's got to be in the top 10 exports.
Yeah. They got to make sure that, you know, the country can sustain with keeping the exports going. You know, absolutely. So what's going on in the world of C.L.E.?
C.L.E., we're keeping very busy with C.L.E. You know, C.L.E. was an interesting story. And C.L.E. was a project that it probably took me like 6, 7, 8 months to plan the first product. It is one of those things that drives anybody from outside the business absolutely crazy. Asylum took me about an hour and a half. That's how long I worked on Asylum. and then C.L.E. took all the planning in the world. It happens like that, man. I remember I used to come up with some other marketing ideas in Camacho, and they would never work, and the stuff I would do haphazardly would work a lot better. And you just can't understand it. But C.L.E. took us about 3 or 4 evolutions of the packaging, of the box. Cigars always remained the same. We always knew that the cigar was good. It's just how to present it to people. And now and we did a production in Nicaragua, also the Prieto and the C.L.E. Those started doing very well. We did a packaging change last year, went to the slide top cabinet type boxes, and we changed the bands in 2017. And that did extremely well for us. And now, of course, and the big monster for us this year the big monsters have been the Eiroa First 20, which people like to call the Maduro, but I just call it the Eiroa First 20. And then the Colorado, which is the Colorado wrapper, the Corojo. And those have been the huge monsters for us. Mm-hmm. And we have a couple surprises that I'm working on for 2019. And we'll begin to talk about those pretty soon, within the next week and a half or 2 weeks.
Just in time.
We're going to start teasing people as to what's coming.
You're going to start teasing them during the IPCPR?
Yeah, probably before. Social media, we got this new kid, Raul Flores, man. He's really, really good.
Yes. Yeah.
Listen, man, this guy has me taking all kinds of pictures all the time and all kinds of posts. He's on me. He's like my mother.
Yeah.
He's telling me what to do all the time. But he's taking us in a lot more aggressive direction I've been wanting to. I think this kid has the makings of being a superstar in the business. And,
yeah,
I'm going to support him just like he's supporting us. And so I'm sure he's going to be very good about getting the word out there of the new products. But I think these will be very, they'll change the direction of our company for sure. And in a very, very good way. It was finally the brands were taking off at a more aggressive pace. Look at, C.L.E. mostly was made out of Honduras. Honduras stopped being sexy when the whole Nicaraguan cigar revolution started. There was a whole Nicaraguan cigar boom happening. And C.L.E. kind of just, anything from Honduras kind of fell behind as factories started moving more and more toward Nicaragua. Because Honduras, let's say from 2009 to 2013 or 14, was fairly unsafe. We got the new government in. He finally just got reelected as well. And that has been very helpful for our industry because we started cleaning up all the narcos. The country, we were having 100 kidnappings a month. 100. We were the most murderous country in the world. And there was finally extradition started happening for all these narcos. So now the country became safe again. And now we're able to start bringing customers down to visit us again and start showing what we do. But Honduras always had that struggle. Honduras was, Angel Oliva said it best himself back when he brought my father in. The Honduran tobacco was the most similar to Cuban tobacco. Oliva back then in the 1960s, of course, was looking for a good replacement for Cuban tobacco. And Honduran tobacco provided it. So Honduran tobacco was always a source of raw material, but never did we have very many good brands out of there. It was a Hoyo Monterey and Punch made by Villazon back then that really started giving good reputation to Honduras. And then we came along with Camacho and really helped blow that up. And I think Davidoff, of course, with Zeno, helped improve the image of Honduras as well.
Yeah. That was
now, slowly but surely, man, we're creeping back up. And listen, we're here. I'm a patriot, man. I want to make Honduras look good, and that's also a reason why we're doing a big charity move, also, and becoming a lot more philanthropic. In this generation. Yeah,
absolutely. Wow, that was a very interesting 5-minute speed burst. You brought up so many points. You brought up so many points that I want to get into. Your packaging had changed here. I have the Corojo in my hand and the Habano. Love the Habano. Awesome stick. Right now, as we speak for this interview, is the first time I cracked open a chili. Is that how you pronounce it? The chili?
Chili. Chili means blonde, man, in our countries. Blonde guy is a chili.
I shied away from it for a while just because of the box press, but this is a great stick here. So I want to get to some of the components of that. But you also brought up a point of with this new hire of yours, Raul, who had whose task.
Man, you make it sound so exotic.
Right? No,
Raul.
No. I spent a lot of time this week talking to him. Right? He's a great guy. He answers all my. There's a couple people in the industry who should go to school when scheduling I guess you could say technical interview here on Stogie Geeks, with Skype. And Raul has follow through. He emailed me, make sure that we have all your information. Everything I asked him for, he gave it. So if he's going to be in charge of being like the brand ambassador. Take us through the transition of what's in your head from a business owner. When you started C.L.E., social media really wasn't as big as a component as it is now. So what's going right? Correct? When you started,
100%, man. And
right.
I think I credit, going back to Asylum for half a second, I credit the success of Asylum, especially the 70x7, to the social media world.
Mm-hmm.
That size had, if you want to sit here and be logical about it, I think that size was, hold on, got a helicopter flying. I had to hide my stash. So you had when we came out with the Asylum, right product, right price, right packaging. But the one thing that I never factored in, of course, Facebook was around, but it wasn't that big. But the Instagram started, and the cigar was so sexy and attractive that people started taking a lot of pictures with that cigar. And I think that's one thing that really helped that brand get going.
Yeah.
And now, being that social media is so important, that's the direction that we're moving in. Beside working with the good people at Cigar Journal and also Cigar Press, we're not doing any print media anymore. Anyway, and we'll do one or two American Airlines issues a year, but we're shying away from any other type of media because I think being interactive is the most important thing. And I think that Raul is really, really that talented. He's the one that did the original Eiroa cigar band for us. He was with us back in the Wynwood project, and when that thing went south because of people involved in that company, Raul went, he went out with the bathwater. I don't know if it was fair or unfair at the time, but that was the decision that was taken at the time. And I was able to. There's a book out there called The Alchemist, which by Paulo Coelho, which basically the guy goes on a search. And after he's been searching, 7-8 years, he comes back, and what he was looking for is where it was right under his feet where he first started.
Right.
So I think Raul finally started with us about a month and a half ago. I brought him in for one project to paint this Humvee, the one we're giving away now at Cigars International in a couple weeks. And the kid came in, man, just there's great chemistry, man. I work really well with the guy. This kid has the makings of truly a superstar. There's so many ideas that we come up with on a daily basis. I always come up with an idea. Implementation is always the hard part. And I think this is the guy that can help me get the stuff implemented. And that's what we need. We can, if we had an advertising budget for $200,000, $300,000 a year on print media, imagine what you could do with social media with that kind of money. And we're a small company. Imagine a big company.
Yeah.
So we're going to be doing a lot of interesting things. And I'm a disruptor. You can't function in this business if you don't disrupt. You have to change the way things are done. We couldn't sell Camacho as a new brand. What did I do? I brought every single customer I had down to Honduras. What does everybody do now? Everybody brings customers to Honduras. My father couldn't sell a Connecticut cigar. He used to put a sweet cap on the backrest. Backrest became one of the best seven selling cigars in the country. We did the Triple Maduro back then. I came up with this company, made the big cigars. You mentioned now the tissue wrap on those cigars. I don't like cellophane on cigars. So we tissue wrapped them so the cigars can marry each other inside the box, and we can put the barcode. You have to be a disruptor. I think the direction that this kid's going to take us in, Raul, it's definitely going to help us disrupt the way the industry's done and make it a lot more interactive. And that's our goal. I really want every single customer to be able to contact me whenever they have a good thing and or a bad thing to say about the cigars. Because I want to make it better. I always want to make sure that I'm connected to people because it's about the experience of smoking the product. The product itself, but it's the experience of it. And I want them to understand what it means to us every time they smoke a cigar and ask a question and share something with us.
Yeah, absolutely. This chili is amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take us through this blend.
Well, the Chile and the Prieto are essentially the same blend.
Okay.
The Prieto has the broadleaf wrapper. It has jalapa and condega binders and fillers. And when it comes to the Chile, same thing. We just use an Ecuadorian Connecticut wrapper. And what that little cigar does is kind of deceitful because you think it's because it's Connecticut wrapper. It's not going to have that much body. Well, actually, smoked the cigar. It has a lot of good body to it. It's very well made. It's very well pressed. I like the way that Connecticut cigar looks when it's pressed. And we had to really do the press right because that wrapper is so clean that if you press it the wrong way, you would stain that wrapper. But if you look at that wrapper, it's pristine. You don't even see marked corners or anything on that wrapper. It's the darker wrappers, of course, are much easier because you don't see the streaks or the skid marks, call them whatever you want to call them. And on those, you don't see it. I think that's a testament to how well these people work in Nicaragua.
Yeah, it's a great blend. The Habano is one of my favorites for sure, but this Chile is definitely a close one as well.
You mentioned the Habano, and it's amazing how the Habano has been creeping.
Yes.
A lot lately, man.
Yes.
It's really, really interesting what the cigar is doing.
Yeah.
It kind of always gets stuck in the middle. It's like that middle brother syndrome. Mm-hmm. And dude, it's working, man. The cigar's working really well. It's amazing.
Yeah, I know a bunch of other companies who we interview and stuff like that here every Friday. It's one of those things where when they have a Connecticut, everybody talks about the Connecticut. When they have a Maduro, they talk about the Maduro. No one really talks about the Habano. And I'm like, listen, like they're kind of like Lanceros, right? Like give the Habanos a chance. Because it's like from a retail perspective, the Lanceros really don't do well, and we always hear it from either the roller or from the cigar owner, and says they like the bigger sizes, they don't like the Lanceros. And I'm saying as a smoker, you really do yourself a disjustice by not getting into Lanceros. Like they're so tasty. You know what I mean?
Bro, listen, you're not gonna rope me into this discussion. Yes, I like the size. I hate making it because geeks like you keep saying that the cigar is a great size and we'll make them, and then they don't sell as often as much as you think. That's why on the stupid Asylum, it's called the 99 Problems, man. Because I told Tom, listen, I'll make that stupid size for you, but I'm not making a box. So when I try to put them in the 70 by 7 box, I can fit 99 of them. That's the name. 99 Problems.
Right.
So no, we're not going to sell those cigars.
Right.
20. I mean, listen, man, they sold. They sold very well.
Yeah.
And actually, now I had to do a second. No, we're in the third run already for the Eiroa. The Eiroa, we call it the Classic now because that's what it's called in Europe, which is a regular Eiroa line. And also on the on the CBT, we're down on a third run for those cigars because they're actually selling really, really well. We're making those for Spring Street Cigars in oh, come on, man. Whatever, where Elvis was born. Forget the name right now. And Mississippi.
Yep.
And then, damn it, I forget the name of the town. Anyway, so now a few other customers heard about it. They started ordering it. We're actually doing fairly well with that product.
Nice. Do you notice any hot spots? Now, let's take America. So you got the continent. Do you notice any hot spots where, like, for example, Atlanta or Texas, or like, what are the hot spots that you really concentrate on where C.L.E. does a really noticeable size in regards to volume and distribution?
I think Florida does really well.
Mm-hmm.
We have this kid, Mike Denny, in Florida, who's doing a real good job getting the product placed. Mm-hmm. And can you hear me all right? Because I touched the screen. I don't know if I did anything.
Yeah. Yep. You're good. You're good.
All right. So Mike Denny is a guy in Florida, real hard worker. He's done a great job for us in Florida for C.L.E. and the Eiroa line. Also, Louisiana area, we do very well. Mid-Atlantic, we have Tyler covering up that area also, and that's doing extremely well for us. Midwest, because it's Lazuka land, it was first Asylum, but now I think the Eiroa and the C.L.E. lines are beginning to pick up in those areas. Mm-hmm. But pretty much everywhere. Our sales guy and our salespeople do a very good job, and the way we cut the territories up, they're fairly similar in all the different territories of how the product sells. So we don't really have. I can't really tell you. Oh man, you know what? Omaha, Nebraska, man. That's it. That's the #1 city. Mm-hmm. It's we really don't trace it that way because it's interesting thing about cigars. When they start growing, it's an epidemic, and they do become very popular. When they become popular in one area, they tend to become popular in many different areas. Although we'll say that the popularity of the Asylum line did start in the Midwest. It was a Chicago product, and it was a Detroit more than anything product. Mm-hmm. But Tom Lazuka may have had some business in Chicago. So that's why the product, he was always in Chicago getting that product placed.
Right.
So, we do fairly well, and there's not one particular market I can tell you stands out.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe also Florida, because
Yeah.
this kid's always the first one to get a phone call when I don't see it someplace. I'm like, Mike, man, you got to call this guy. I can't believe the product's not there.
Right. Yeah, I find that interesting. It's also a testament as to where you are as a company, because if we've interviewed, say, some of the smaller companies that are smaller than a C.L.E. or Asylum, that they've always said, Texas, Houston, Texas, Atlanta, Georgia, definitely South Florida, definitely the Northeast here. But it seems that you're big enough to where you're past that point now. You're growing. The company's growing. You're making batches quicker as you get going. You're expanding your line, so you seem to be kind of out of that versus, say, a 2008 or 2011 where you kind of weren't. So
we laugh because a tiger can't change his stripes. So when we started this company, I told Tom, listen, Tom, it's just going to be you, maybe one or two other guys, and me, and that's it. We'll go out, we'll sell a few cigars. 300,000 cigars every 6 months and 600 a year. That's it, no more. Let's enjoy this. And I'm telling you, man, it took a matter of probably, it was a trade show because we started close to a trade show, and we saw how quickly Asylum caught fire. I called Tom. I said, Tom, that's it, man. Let's hire salespeople. And then we started, and I didn't want to take for anybody. I didn't want to poach salespeople. We wanted to build a good crew. I wanted to be respectful of everybody else out there. Because I never, ever, ever wanted anybody to come back and say that they built it because we took their people or something. I really wanted to earn every single inch. Just like we had the old Camacho customer list, and one of my people brought me a list from one of our office people from the past. I said, listen, no, man, throw that list away. Let's build our own customer list from the beginning.
Yeah.
And also, it made it a lot more fun, a lot more challenging. But we wanted to make sure, because I know the formula. It was just a matter of teaching and training and getting a new group of people. And I tell you, man, we have such a great crew of guys that have been with us from the beginning. And, 6 out of 10 were no's when they first started, maybe 7 out of 10. But so now we got to the point where if you manage the strategy right, if you protect the price on your product, you keep your quality consistent, you stand behind your product, it gets to a point that now we're saying yes to, what is it? We have a waiting list for customers now because we're not opening up new accounts. We're doing the right volume that we want, where we can grow our production responsibly, but still make sure that the quality of cigars doesn't suffer, and we can still increase production 18, 20, 22% a year and not really hurt the quality of the product at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Have you noticed that from a business perspective, if you don't have a rep on the road, the territory kind of goes flat?
100%, man.
Yeah.
Out of sight, out of mind. We're in a very competitive world, and it's like that, man. And it's not so much the personal relationship, but it's the way the product is presented in the store. Listen, a person who sits in a cigar store that goes in as a customer, he or she thought about going to that store for hours before they showed up. It is our job to make sure that we give these people the right experience from the very beginning. Mm-hmm. It is our responsibility to make sure that the store is clean, that the cigars look good. So one of the things that we always tell our guys is make sure that your area is nice and clean always. Make sure our cigars are well presented. Dress the boxes very nicely. Give us good placement. When you don't have salespeople on the road focusing on this, you lose that. So when you go in and your product just doesn't look organized, you're not going to buy it. Imagine going to a gas station and the Wrigley's gum is all a mess. You're not going to buy Wrigley's. You're going to buy Spearmint because it looks better the way it's presented. Mm-hmm. All these things. Plus, a guy has a question, he or she, or a bad product, whatever. Listen, it's a product in my hand. If we're not there to solve the problem in hours, they just move away, they get disappointed, and our customers do not forget. Listen, I've had people pissed off on me for 19 years for something I must have done at some point.
Sure.
Maybe I knew about it, maybe I didn't. That was Mike's biggest problem when he first came in. Oh, man, Chris is an asshole. And a lot of people I never even met.
Yeah.
And, because it was either something happened or they got stuck with old product or whatever happened. whatever happened. And these are all things that have to be fixed right when it happens. And that's where the salespeople on the road do such a great job. But they have to care, man. And I think that's where we became very fortunate. And that's why a guy like Tom has really helped us build a hell of a team. I think these guys, every single one, to a person, really cares about what they're doing. Yeah. And who they're doing it for. They really like our workers also.
What do you think about the industry as a whole? I thought going into, I've said here on this show, and by the way, all of the shows get documented either on StogieGeeks.com or wiki.stogiegeeks.com. And I've said that going into 2018, some of my predictions for the industry was that we're going to start to see a lot of consolidation and collaboration of the industry itself. You know, so definitely collaboration work. I thought there was going to be more. It started out very early in 2018 where, you know, different companies were collaborating with other companies to produce a stick, right? And so to me, going into towards this year, that was the theme to kind of look for, who's going to collaborate with who. And then from a standpoint of the industry, a lot of consolidation of the industry. So, you know, with this Nicaraguan boom that we all speak of, and the consumers definitely seem to be flocking towards a Nicaraguan product, what do you think about both of those subjects?
Well, listen, a couple of things have happened that are very interesting. Europeans control our industry now. The biggest companies are owned by Europeans. These are very big companies, good people, extremely organized. But I sometimes get the impression there are a lot of top-line kinds of people. You know, they got to get sales. They got to get product on the street. Salespeople have quotas to meet. Some are publicly traded. They have to meet their quotas. They just have to meet them. Then you have a few company-owned still. Family-owned still. And our focus is very different. And one thing I did well, just like when we were building Camacho, I focused on Villazon, you know, what Frank and Nessa built, which is a hell of a company. And Stella Padron, who was his manufacturer, or the guy in his factory, was probably my favorite manufacturer ever. Him and Rolando Reyes. And the one company model after, I say very complimentary, and I call him a good friend and a mentor, is Carlos Fuente. And Carlos Fuente would always tell me, listen, man, you don't want to be big. Stay small, stay organized. It's going to make you look a lot better, make you feel a lot better when you go to bed at night. And that really has been the focus. So we don't really focus on growth that way. We want to make sure our customers are happy, that our brands are protected, and that we build the brand for the next 30 or 40 years. I have 3 kids. The guys that are working with me have children also. I want to make sure that they too have a future in our company if that's what they choose to pursue. You know, so we're making this a family business. So, you know, matter of fact, even the people within our company, we're going to make it eventually, hopefully this year, we're just trying to get some financial stuff done where our employees are going to be able to buy shares into the company. So we'll let these guys all be a part of what we're doing so they too and their children will be part of what we're building. I think on the consolidation side, that has toned down a lot. The FDA speaking a lot because they don't know what's going on. No one knows what's happening right now. So everybody is kind of worried. The industry's still growing, man. Reluctantly, it's still growing, but I do see a lot of panic out there. You see a lot of products being discounted tremendously. I see very strong brands selling for 40 and 50% off on a daily basis, which is it's scary to see them do that because, you know, if you step outside and you look at it from a business and a branding point of view, it's very damaging. Of course, in my opinion, that's my opinion.
No, it's definitely my opinion too, and it certainly has to be frustrating for you because I mean, let's face it, your name's on every label, right? So you know, it's one of those things where, you know, if they're discounting it, it's kind of like you're just giving away free stuff or they're doing and
we don't allow it, man.
Right?
We just don't allow it.
I think the industry needs to be more creative with their sustainability tactics as opposed to just giving the product away.
Well, listen, but it depends on the ambitions of everybody, and it depends what everybody's looking for out of their company. I know Carlos Fuente, whenever in the past, if there was a slowdown in production or in demand or whatever, if there was, I'm not sure if there ever was or not, but I'm pretty sure he's the one that would take the decision just to close down production and slow down production. And so, he would, and that's the motto I use. If ever our sales begin to slow down, we'll just slow down production. We're not going to sit here and panic and worry about the top line. We're focused on making sure that our brand is always protected.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as the collaborations, I remember I had a lot of fun doing that project with Lito. We did something called the Face Off many, many years ago. I want to say 2004, 2005. I forget, man. I see some companies doing that now. I don't see at what level. I don't see an epidemic of it. I would like to see it because I think it'll be fun. I thought about doing it, but to be honest, we've been so busy building our core business. Asylum did well, and the last 2 years we've been focusing heavily on C.L.E. and the Eiroa brands. The Eiroa brand is finally in very good shape, especially like I said, the Eiroa First 20 and the Eiroa First 20 Colorado. The C.L.E. brands are getting there. I think they'll be by the end of this trade show, or definitely by the trade show 2019. That brand will be in very good shape. And I think in 2019, 2020, we'll be looking to collaborate with some people. I want to make interesting projects, man. I want to do stuff that's fun. It has to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not fun, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Because it's not. I promised myself one thing, that this company will not be about the money. I went through that part already. I did not enjoy when our company was 13, 14, 15 million cigars a year. I did not have fun at all. And, I was in my 20s and my 30s, different time.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's all about the quality, and my ambitions are different. It's more, once we get to that kind of level, it'll be 60% of my time will be more philanthropic than it will be on the business side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's actually a good approach, because I look at collaboration as a two-part, right? The first part, you say, okay, I'm trying to.
Oh, two-part. I thought you said two-pack. Two-pack. Oh,
two-part.
He's going Tupac Shakur now.
I look at it like a two-part situation here, right?
It's the accent, man. Sorry, bro.
Two-part. That's okay, right? I'm trying not to name specific companies, but one company might not have had the leverage and the branding and the market share, and then another one has all the market share, but their product is not as superior as the other brand. So when they collaborate, it could actually work for that company, right? And then
right.
And then the second part, right? The second part is, either they get bored because their creativity process has come to like a little bit of a point of stagnation, where I think that might be how the consumer perceives it. But if you're going to do a collaboration, it should not only work for both parties to obviously to work together, combine forces, and gain more market share, but also for the creativity factor. But I would hope that in their marketing and branding, that creativity factor wouldn't get lost within the consumer translation.
Mm.
You follow me? You follow what I'm trying to say? So, yeah. So
I understand.
So I like your poised approach of saying, hey,
thank you.
Maybe 2019. So maybe 18 months from now, I'll look into it. You know what I mean? Is basically what you told us here on Stogie Geeks, is saying, hey, stay tuned, stay close to the brand. There might be something. However, you as the owner of the company is saying, hey, my product has legs. My product is a good product. It stands there with some of the other products. I'm going to do my own thing and trust my stuff, which I think is a testament to how you want to run the business.
Thank you, man. Actually, we might be... I want to be careful with the statement.
Okay.
But I want to say, on the premium cigar side, percentage-wise, not volume of sales, but percentage-wise, we probably have the largest percentage, which is like 10 to 12% of our total sales are now in Europe, which is something very, very interesting. That's something we never achieved. Camacho wasn't even 0.5%. It was a very, very small percentage, because our approach was different. From the very beginning, I knew I was trying to build a brand, not so much a business itself. Mm-hmm. And we're very fortunate that we got Mr. Hans-Peter Hagman, very good guy. He used to be with Davidoff for many years. And he helped us build these international markets to a level that you go to duty-free airports in Paris, we're the third best-selling brand. If you believe that. That's a crazy number. That's a huge number. You consider how many cigars are being sold at these airports in Paris.
Yeah.
We're actually in the duty-free in Romania, in Malta, So now I got to go visit all these different places.
Yeah, yeah.
And but it's the approach was completely different, a lot more mature, a lot more patient, a lot more expensive too, man. We spent a ton of money. It wasn't until March 1st, 2017, because February 2017 was a horrible month. That's when everybody was cleaning house because the FDA had ruled and everybody was panicking. And we decided to stop doing samples. We decided to cut a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I'm not going to sit here and start going top line. I want to focus on making sure that everything is done right. Man, we had such a bad month, February 2017. I was in the fetal position, sucking my thumb. I was like, oh my God. And when I got into the office March 1st, I realized that our results were to the point that we actually broke even as a company. And my approach changed completely. Because finally I was able to prove to myself and everybody else, all the people out there that were criticizing and challenging what we were doing, and we were able to prove that the model did work. Did in fact work very well, and we haven't looked back since.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But it was 5.5 years into it, though, man. It was a scary time.
That's awesome. Are you coming to the Northeast anytime soon?
Yes, I'm going to be at Paramus on June 28th, I believe.
Okay.
And then I was just there last week, man. I was just there a couple weeks ago. We did a thing at a Karen's store in Massachusetts.
Oh, really?
And we did something at Kurt Kendall's store.
Okay, sure, yeah. Yeah, he's got a good store up there. I did
the show with Dave.
Cigar Dave?
Hey, Dave Garofalo.
Oh, Garofalo, duh. Yeah.
Yeah, we did the radio show. That was a lot of fun, too.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And I enjoy these, not only because I'm a co-host, but these podcasts and where they are and where they're positioned is almost a unique feature as well, and then how they're positioned, and being with Stogie Geeks, I'm into my second year here, and Stogie Geeks is interestingly positioned within the marketplace. It's a pretty neat space that we're in as well, and Dave's show, he does a phenomenal job every Saturday over there.
Listen, it's amazing what you guys have done, and we were early. I don't know if the word is adapters, but we were early supporters of your format. And I still remember people making fun of what you guys, not you specifically, but you guys in general were doing. And I just remember thinking, man, it's going to happen because I see the trends. I have 3 boys, and I see these numbnuts on their phones all the time. And I knew that this was going to change, and I knew we had to support this kind of approach. It's been 2 years, man. I've been looking for somebody like Raul to do what we're doing and to support you guys a lot more in a way that we don't miss out, but we want to be there. Because I do think that the page has turned already. And our industry tends to be a lot slower in adapting, mainly because of the age of the cigar smoker, right? Usually the average guy is about 43, 45. We're not that hip on technology in general.
Sure.
Guys my age.
Yeah, we've had some interesting Skype test calls here on Stogie Geeks, getting people to adapt to, from.
Hey, I'm one of them, bro. So don't tell anybody.
No, I won't.
But I'm one of them.
I won't. The behind the scenes, I could do a Stogie Geeks outtakes on Skype test calls for sure.
Yeah, you should, man. You should.
Yeah, it's a good time. Getting them.
Yeah, these guys. For everybody out there watching, these guys. Well, Chris, you see that little button that looks like a cow, a balloon? Press that one. I said, this one? Are you sure?
Yeah. It's pretty fascinating to watch. But from a technology perspective, it's great. Here you are taking time out of your schedule, and now you can speak to us, and it's in a video format, and the listeners can hear all about your company, and it's great. You know what I mean?
Listen, man, you're the best part of my day, man.
Well, thank you.
They just lost 2 games. They went 1 for 4. So you're the best part of my day today.
For those of you who are listening or going to watch this on StogieGeeks.com, Christian took time out of his son's baseball schedule to interview us. So
Oh, it's a lot of fun, man. I love it, bro. And the good thing about baseball, it's still fairly cigar friendly. I can go off the left field and right field, light up a cigar.
Right.
The umpires will come. I'll hand the cigar to their umps. They'll smoke one later.
But do they know who you are? Like, do they know like who you are in the industry, or is it just like, oh, you're just some dad who just likes cigars?
No, listen, I'm just a creepy dad that sits on left field right here smoking a cigar, and it's just good, man. I like the anonymity of it,
right?
And plus now, you got a lot of scouts out there. Listen, man, we're looking for scholarship money, right? So we got to make sure no one knows. Right. No one knows that we have to pretend like we can't afford the schools.
Yeah, right. Either that or the baseball team will be sponsored by C.L.E. cigars, right?
Yeah, right.
I'm sure the colleges and schools levels would really love that one, right?
Yeah, man.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What do you think about the FDA, like future and the uncertainty? What do you know?
Actually, no. We just had a meeting about it today. We're coming up with these bunch of definitions and terms and studies. And by the way, real quick, it seems like the Skype is sucking up a lot of juice. So if I get cut off abruptly, don't panic. But I think we have a good 10, 15 minutes left.
Okay.
But I think the FDA certainly has changed the industry. They have been, the word is not friendly, right? That's like saying that an alligator lets us pet it once in a while.
Sure.
They really, if tobacco, Joel Sherman always used to say, if tobacco's in the name, we're all the same. But they have been somewhat friendly toward us. They've given us a few extensions. We just had a meeting yesterday, and one of the requests that I made was to contact the FDA about the warning labels because of the disruptions now in Nicaragua. Hopefully we can delay the warning labels, which are just absolutely hideous. And I hate what they're doing to them. Actually, and Tyler, our kid from, he works in Miami, does production. He also works in Mid-Atlantic territory and Mexico. So now the kid just sent me the warning labels from Mexico, and it just it's disgusting, man. What they do. Matter of fact, and the funny thing is that we'll be able to prove now is there's zero evidence that we do any harm to people.
Sure.
I think one study I saw, 100,000 people, only 9 were viewed as increased risk. 9 out of 100,000 people.
Right.
And I think the study itself says comparable, lower than milk.
Right.
Or something to that extent.
Yeah.
It was something similar. I mean, I would love to cite the study, but I'll screw it up, so I won't say it.
Yep. No, but it's a valid point for sure.
But you know what? We have the open comment period to the FDA. I asked guys to go ahead and submit comments. It's a lot of fun, but have some fun yourselves because this is something you do as a hobby. Not because you want to save it, because you want to know what's true and what's not. Have some fun. Do some research. Don't just send a silly email to the FDA saying, "Oh, keep your hands off my cigars."
Yeah, right.
Because they just they don't pay attention.
Of course they don't.
Cite some studies. Take your time. Share your experiences. We're right next to an Air Force base, man. So you got a Black Hawk flying back there, and they're not coming after me, I promise. And so what you do is have some fun doing it, man. Do some research. It'll take you about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and cite some good studies on it. Yeah. And send something to the FDA.
Yeah, I can't stand the templated emails we get. Oh, send this out to your email distribution list of the listeners and have them cut and paste and say it's all the same letter. There's no thought process in it.
They see right through it.
Of course
they'll
they
look at it. Oh, they just okay.
Yep. One more question before we let you go. IPCPR, you got what's your intentions, and you got some stuff coming out, or you don't want to say yet? Of course.
we do. we do. I just it's not finalized yet. This is
come on, it's finalized.
Hollywood finish. Hollywood finish here.
It's got to be finalized. You're not thinking 3 weeks ahead, sir.
And plus, to be honest with you, if I share with you and not tell Charlie Minato first, I'll never hear the end of it, Charlie.
I always get that. People, different versions of you call me on my cell phone. We're booking the interview and doing that, and they always tell me the gossip, and they always tell it to me offline. And I think it's a test because I've yet to say I've never leaked it. I want to keep the integrity of the brand. And it's so funny because 2 months later, when my friends or Stogie Geek listener will flash me an email and say, "Oh, did you hear this?" I'm like, "Yeah, I knew it already." They're like, "Well, how come you didn't say anything?" I was like, "They asked me not to say anything, and I'm not going to say anything." But is there anything that you could leak out or anything like that, or no? We're not friends.
No, not yet.
We're not close enough, right? Can I be second?
Yeah, I'll make sure Raul.
Yeah.
I'll make sure Raul includes you.
Yeah.
No, I think Raul should have you guys on the main list, and if he doesn't, I'll make sure he does.
Okay. Yeah.
And to include you guys. No, we send it to everybody at the same time. We send it to everybody at the same time.
I don't know.
Once it's finalized. We do. We really do. So,
Yeah.
But I'll make sure you get at the same time as everybody else.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Awesome. You have any questions for me, even though I'm interviewing you?
No, man, not at all, bro. I really do appreciate the time. I like the format that you guys are doing.
Okay. Yeah.
How many downloads do you guys get now every episode?
We are on a very steady incline of downloads. We're rocking about 17,000 a week.
Wow.
So
Good for you.
we're positioned very well. If you followed the format of the show in the first quarter of 2017, there was an exodus of Cigar Coop from Will, and then he has his own podcast and does his own thing and whatnot. And then I jumped in 3 months before then. And we've kind of changed the format a little bit and done some different things. And Paul, the owner of Stogie Geeks, we've been extremely busy here with his main business, the security side of things. So you know, he does 8 podcasts a week, and Stogie Geeks is one of the 8. So it's
that's a lot, man.
And it's so it's like I said, like Stogie Geeks is really positioned very uniquely, and we're carefully observing our brand, and we're carefully observing the numbers, and we're strategically at a point. I would say it's a pretty big pivot point that's probably about to happen. We're going to change some stuff. It'll still be a format of a podcast and stuff like that, but we're doing some stuff remotely on his security side, which is only once that gets perfected. It's only a matter of time until he incorporates that here.
But no apps, right? You guys aren't allowed to do apps.
We've talked about that. Doing an app, I mean, realistically speaking, because here right now the listeners are following it on Facebook Live. They can get it there. Then the show will be edited for format, and then it goes out to all of the podcasts. We have proprietary software that actually does that, and without getting too much into it, because there's a lot of competitors who actually listen, right? So, you know, without getting too deep into it, but, you know, the problem is if you do an app, it's kind of like, say you were in one cigar shop per state, right? You would only be in 50 cigar shops, and you want the format to be more accessible than, I guess you could say, ease of use, so to speak, you know? So, you know, the Stogie Geeks listener can get it delivered to their phone via Apple or Android. So it's on the app, but it's on the podcast, whatever podcast app that they choose. Does that make sense?
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So you know, if they're following Stogie Geeks and they're following Cigar Coop and they're following Garofalo or Cigar Dave or whatever app they're using, all of the different shows will kind of get funneled into them so that they can watch it at their leisure. You know, as opposed to if we directed everyone to just our website, we're kind of limited to our space. Right. You know, so you kind of gotta watch that. And the good news is, from our perspective, is that pre-Stogie Geeks, Paul Asadorian, well educated within the computer field. So, and well respected within the computer field and within the field of computer security. So, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, he's well aware of what technologies would be best for us to distribute the actual shows, which get us more listeners. What we did find out fascinating, are you in Sweden at all?
Where?
Sweden.
Yeah, I was just there 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome, man.
Great
cigar culture.
Yeah, we are downloaded very heavily over there as well.
Oh, good, man. Yeah, I have a lot of good friends over there. Roberg's distributes our product, does
Yeah.
extremely well in Sweden.
Yeah, so and which we found kind of interesting. You know what I mean? We were because we pull up the we have a meeting every week from a behind the scenes as to who's downloading us, are they listening to the full episode, are they tuning in for just the Stogies of the Week Volume 1 or the actual interview? Because what'll happen is live it'll be all one show. On the website, StogieGeeks.com, it'll be all one show. But on the podcast, it gets separated into the different segments of the show.
Okay.
So then we can make a decision, are people tuning in for the interviews but don't like our reviews? Or are we? Is it kind of like an even field? And for us, it's both. Because the Stogie Geeks listener will email me and they'll say, hey, I enjoyed your review on this. Or sometimes I say, hey, I'm looking for this specific cigar. And the listeners, say, hey, my local shop has it. Because you know how that can be a geographical challenge. You know what I mean?
Were you guys ever able to make it interactive?
Great question. These are, see, you do have questions for me. That is extremely.
I have a question. I'm just afraid of the answer. Go ahead.
I'm actually afraid to give the answer, but we are very close to having that become accomplished.
Let me know we'll be the first ones. One thing Raul has put in my head is we got to engage, and I've been wanting to do that since the 1990s, before you were born. There's something called Ultimate.Smokers.Cigars. That's where I actually met Steve Sock and a bunch of these other guys, these news groups back then. And then I don't know if you remember, JR had their bulletin board, and Cigar Family had theirs. It was always very interactive. I liked it, and but listen, I like it. I've always been for that kind of.
Yeah.
Because there's so much curiosity. This is such a wonderful product that we make with so many people involved in it, and there's so many questions about it and how to enjoy it and share it with their friends. That I love doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, right now, well, first of all, I'm only 3 years younger than you. But anyway, right?
Well,
so I remember the 90s, right? But whatchamacallit? Right now we have interactive components. So if I post on StogieGeeks.com, if I post a review, the user can go in and comment that and do all of that there. We do have a Facebook Live component where a listener can ask a question and stuff like that, but based upon the amount of time. I also try to limit it to the actual guest as well, because some guests we get to have a business conversation like you and I just shared, or some guests we get into the wrapper binder filler and kind of how you got started. So I kind of judge that there. But if you ever wanted to do a interactive forum, I can speak to Raul offline. Can you hear me? You can't hear me?
There you go. It was just a lot of static.
Yep. If you ever wanted to do a interactive forum, say for like an hour or so, I can speak to Raul offline, and maybe we can get email it out to the listeners, have an interactive forum. If you ever want to be a disruptor and pioneer that with us, let me know. Because
I'm telling you right now, kid, we're in.
All right, we can put that together for you, for sure.
All right.
And I will bring that up at our next sales meeting, which is Monday 9 o'clock, because I'm actually here full time for Paul's company. So I just got hired full time in May. So I'm his director of sales for all of his security stuff in that side, and then obviously I'm co-host, and I'll brainstorm with him and see if we can put that together to make it very interactive for you.
That'll be fun, man.
Awesome. All
right, kid.
All right.
Thank you, man.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
All right, guys. Later.
Yep, later.
Bye.
Well, that was a very, very interesting interview from a business perspective, for sure. If you want to learn more about Christian and how he got started, and want to get that interview, all you have to do is go to StogieGeeks.com, type in episode 150. That's where you'll get to know about wrapper, binder, and filler of C.L.E. cigars. If you, the Stogie Geeks listener, enjoy C.L.E. cigars and want to share some stories, don't forget, you can always post on Facebook. Don't forget to tag Stogie Geeks. If you get around to it, you can tag me, but tag them. Let them know that you're out there enjoying the interview and the C.L.E. cigars for sure. By the way, this chili is super awesome. I'm going to have another one to check consistency for sure, and that will be very high in the ratings here on Stogie Geeks. Want to thank the listener for tuning in. I have been your host this week, Joe Hozempa. We will see you next week.